Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike Financial Education. Today we're going to discuss 5 lessons from the book The Laws of Success, written by Napoleon Hill. Lesson 1. Set a goal. According to the book, once we have a precise goal, it helps us become more focused on what advances us toward it. Napoleon Hill conducted research involving 16,000 people, in which he discovered that almost all successful people had a clear goal at the beginning of their journey. A clear goal allows you to gain several things. The first thing you gain is knowing what not to do. Most people perform many actions without making progress in life. This happens mainly because if we don't have a precise goal, we simply cannot take the right actions. For example, if you want to become wealthy, it's clear to you what actions are needed to get rich, so it will be easier for you to choose the right actions. In contrast, if you're just going with the flow of life, without goals, there's no chance you'll accidentally reach a goal you didn't even set. The second thing you get from a clear goal is motivation. Once there's a purpose to your actions, you're full of motivation. But if you're doing things just because you must, without motivation, there's a good chance you'll break down and become discouraged along the way. Think, for example, about 2 people working at the same workplace. One works with the goal of saving money and gaining experience to open his dream business later, while the other works because he needs to work. Who do you think will have more motivation? Who do you think is the worker who will likely perform better at work? Who is the worker that you think will advance more? The third thing is the opportunity to join or build groups. There's no doubt that your chance of success in life improves much more when you're together with a group of people striving for the same goal. If, for example, you want to be good at running, there's no doubt you can do it alone too. But if you work with a group, you can receive tips from people who can help you in different areas like technique, nutrition, mental training, and more. Once you join such a group, not only do you benefit, but you can also help others benefit. In many cases, you can see that people who met in specific groups helped each other in different areas as well. For example, if you're in a swimming group, and a good friend of yours who's in the group happens to be an expert in finance too, there's no reason he won't help you if you ask. A good group can open endless doors for you in endless fields. Lesson 2. Enthusiasm. According to the book, your ability to perform tasks with enthusiasm is critical to your success. When people perform a certain task or certain work with enthusiasm and passion, the chance that they'll do it better increases. Think, for example, about 2 workers. One worker who performs his work out of great passion and love for the profession, and one who performs the same work, but only because he's forced to. The person who does the work out of passion will make sure to do things in the best way. He will try to improve himself to perform the work better in the future. And of course, this will cause him to perform the task much better than a person who performs the task without passion and without enthusiasm. How can you implement this in life? First thing, you must choose a career that you are passionate about. There's no doubt that people who work out of passion get better results, which helps them advance career-wise and helps them not burn out. Second thing, you can work on enthusiasm and passion by changing your way of thinking and focusing on positive thinking. Think, for example, about 2 teachers, one who tries to focus on the importance of her work and on the students, and one who only sees the bad parts of the work. Who do you think will be better? Who will have a higher quality of life? Both have the same job, only one has an optimistic way of thinking, while the other has pessimistic thinking. Of course, our way of thinking is something that's very difficult to change, but in a long process, it's possible to learn how to see things in a more positive way. Lesson 3. Self-control. Self-control is a person's ability to adjust their thoughts, emotions, and behavior for the purpose of achieving some goal. You could say there's a certain order in which we operate in the world. First, we generate thoughts. The thoughts change our emotions and actions, and ultimately, the actions produce our results. If you know how to control your thoughts, you'll be able to succeed much faster. The thing about controlling thoughts is that you can't control 100% of thoughts, but there's no doubt you can change your way of thinking so we can develop self-control. Once you accustom your brain to think positively and in a way that takes responsibility for life, your brain will get used to thinking like that. In contrast, negative thinking that tends to blame others for our problems will cause our brain to develop a victim thinking pattern, which will prevent you from succeeding. Once a person is aware of this matter, he can make a very big change in life. In a process of several years, you can completely change your way of thinking. Lesson 4. Do more than what you're paid for. People who want to give as much value as possible to others are people who ultimately succeed. This applies to both employees and self-employed. If you train yourself to give as much of yourself as possible, you'll see a very big improvement in your life. This applies not only to career and can be implemented in other areas of life as well. Think, for example, about a business owner who does everything so the customer leaves satisfied. I'm not talking about flattery, but about a genuine and honest attempt to help the customer. There's no doubt that a business owner who operates this way will build himself a reputation as someone worth working with. If you think in the mindset of they pay me $15 per hour, so I'll do mediocre work, you probably won't advance in life. I can tell you that in the past, I worked at a job where they paid me low hourly wage, but because I worked out of a desire to give value, many doors opened for me that ultimately helped me develop greatly, both financially and in terms of the skills I received for life. You need to understand a distinction between wanting to give value and being exploited. A workplace or client that exploits your desire to give doesn't help you advance, and sometimes the opposite. Therefore, it's worth understanding when it's exploitation and when it's not. Lesson 5. Focus. In life, we have three main resources: time, money, and energy. Our ability to use resources precisely is what allows us to succeed. The reason why most people don't achieve outstanding accomplishments in life is that they scatter their resources on many different things, causing them to be average in many areas instead of being excellent in one thing. Of course, there's a limit to how much resource investment you can give to one area only, because we have different areas in life. But the very fact that you understand that to succeed in a certain area, you must be focused greatly increases your chances of success. Think, for example, about two people who start with the same resources, 24 hours a day, a certain amount of money, and a certain amount of energy. One person decides he uses 3 hours a day to advance himself financially, while the second person invests 5 hours a week, while he invests in many other things, like learning how to play guitar, learning how to cook, and learning another language. The same person who invested 3 hours a day invested almost 5,500 hours over 5 years to advance himself financially. In contrast, the second person invested 1,300 hours, so his chance of success will be much lower. The chance that the person who invested a lot of time will succeed increases greatly, while the second person will likely be average in all the areas he invested in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and of course, we'll meet again in the next videos.